The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is Free Kicks. Okay, a warning right at the top here as we start this show.
Yeah.
At any moment, there could be some sort of loud noises going on in the background there at your house, right?
That's right. We're doing a little bit of a remodel with the kitchen. Exciting stuff. So we've gone from brown to a more French-colored white and green because I think my wife...
Can we call it green and white? Can we call it green and white?
Yeah, sure. Green and white. Yeah, sure. I guess those are the only colors I'd have to get, right? So, but yeah, you're right. So I think my wife wants to move to France, and so this is her kind of her best way of doing it. So it's got kind of that country feel.
Okay.
In Hanover Park, if you can kind of get that French country feel, so exciting stuff.
So have some Provence, some Provence spices along with your brown sauce this morning when you're having breakfast, and
that's right.
Buckle up because it's time for Free Kicks.
And now, Free Kicks. Free Kicks with Illinois Youth Soccer Association's Director of Coaching, Adam Howarth, and Rick Kemper.
And there's one more sound that you should be listening for, and that's the sound of a window closing. There it is. It just closed. All right. That is the transfer window is now closed, and holy mackerel, was yesterday a busy day.
Oh, my goodness. Unprecedented, I think, is the word to say.
Yeah.
The amount of money that was spent is just ridiculous. So I think they were talking about £815 million
wow.
being spent compared to last year, 295. So quite a significant increase. And I think this was an interesting stat. You like this. Chelsea, obviously we'll talk about 1,000 of their signings.
Yeah.
They spent more money than the combined total of all the clubs in the Bundesliga, La Liga, Serie A, and League One.
That is obscene.
Ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about them in just a moment. I'd like to do this, if you don't mind, in alphabetical order, just so we
That's very German. That's very German of you. That's very. We will do this in alphabetical order.
Your papers must be in order.
Oh my goodness gracious! Yeah. Maybe I want to do it in unalphabetical.
No. Hey, this is not how this show rolls. All right.
Oh gosh.
We're very formatted. All right.
I guess so. All right, let's do it.
Well, so the first one on the alphabetical list is Arsenal. Yeah. Arsenal has brought in a couple of players since we last spoke, and they're big names.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, Trossard and Jorginho from Chelsea going over there. So obviously Trossard was kind of a little bit earlier,
right.
got upset with Brighton and took off. So, and Jorginho was a bit of a surprise.
Well, and it wasn't too long ago. What was it, just last year or 2 years ago when he was one of the players of the year?
Yeah, that's right.
Led Italy to the European Cup championship.
Yeah. He was in the final three for the player of the year. You're absolutely right. And I mean, he's obviously getting a little bit older,
right.
And obviously the new Chelsea signings that they have, he was probably dispensable at that point. But still, I think more of a backup for Arsenal as they push on through the rest of the season.
Right, because they have Thomas Partey that plays the same position basically, and he's a beast.
Yeah,
But I think he gets injured quite often, so it's good to have someone like Jorginho and Trossard. He was having a great season with Brighton.
Yeah, exactly. It was weird how it just all kind of flipped. All of a sudden, him and the manager at Brighton didn't get along, and he was gone. It was a weird one.
Yeah. Well, there's a few of those. We'll get into that here as we keep on going. But you mentioned how many millions were spent?
We had it was over 600, I think is what I said. Yeah, so a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, 100 million of that went to one guy.
Yes.
Enzo Fernandez. Now we're going alphabetical, so now it's Chelsea's turn. Okay. If I don't mention your team, you guys didn't do squat. So just bring that up.
Exactly.
But Chelsea spent $106 million for Enzo Fernandez, who if you were watching the World Cup, he had a very good World Cup, but that's an all-time record signing, isn't it?
Yeah, the biggest in the Premier League. So, yeah, over 800 million. Sorry, I forgot. Yeah. This is what happens when you get old. You forget what you just said. So 815 million was sent. Chelsea spent 288 million in January alone, which is probably more than most clubs would spend in 5 years.
Right.
105 million, Fernandez. I mean, he's got all the qualities. 21 years old.
Yeah,
he's in that pivot, so he's going to replace the Jorginho. What does that mean to some of the other players? What does that mean to Conte and all of these other players that are still there?
Yeah,
the biggest issue for Chelsea is how do you deal with all of these players, because there really wasn't many players that left.
Right.
That's the biggest thing.
There was a rumor that Ziyech was going to PSG, and then that didn't happen. There was some sort of paperwork issue. But I wouldn't want to be one of these players at Chelsea. There's going to be some unhappiness there.
Yeah, it's going to be really, really difficult for the manager to be able to deal with all these egos. Like you said, we had Mudryk who signed earlier for 80 million. There's so many different. They've got some of the younger strikers. While Felix came over, obviously he's on loan.
Right.
But you've got
he's
all
also
of these
on suspension.
Yes, exactly. I think Badiashile from France, also 35. I mean, it's just, it goes on and on, all of these players. It's hard to keep track. And I'm sure it's going to be difficult for the management to keep track of all of the players.
Well, it's going to get to this point, Adam, where you're going to wonder who's in the starting lineup, but you're also going to wonder who's on the bench. And there are going to be players that don't make it on the bench.
That's right.
That's how many players they have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I read this, and this is probably the best way. Chelsea are now, as in terms of spending, they're like the Real Madrid. That's what they want to become. And there was some discussions there about they want to be that big in terms of spending money, getting the players that they want, and they've certainly done that in massive force in this transfer window. There's no question.
And they're in 10th place.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
All right. Let's go to another club, and that is Leeds, which is now becoming, it should be America's favorite team, wouldn't you say?
That's right. Yeah, Leeds United States of America is what it's going to be, because, another American coming over. Yeah, this is great. So obviously that's going to help with people tuning in. But Weston McKennie coming over from Juventus, big move for him, exciting move for him. So you basically got, three of the key players from the United States playing on that Leeds team. So that's exciting for them.
And they're all starters, right? You'd say that for sure they're all starters. And they're playing together, which is a great thing for the national team because, once you're playing club team together, you develop kind of an unspoken language that you can carry on the field. And and these are key players for USA going forward because you've got Tyler Adams, you've got Aronson, and now McKennie. Yeah,
exactly. All big time players for the US for the future. And, exciting that they're playing together.
And maybe the future American coach, too.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe he can do both. Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe do a bit of Leeds, a bit of United States. I mean, the nice thing is he's working with these players on a day-to-day business. So that's only going to help US in the long run, for sure.
So they're still in the danger zone, but let's root for Leeds here in America.
Yeah.
All right, now Manchester City is a different story. In years past, Manchester City was the team that everyone was going like, really? Another signing? Another one? This year they didn't really sign any big names, but they did lose a big player. And talk about what happened there.
Yeah, so Cancelo, it was really a strange situation. I know he didn't have a great World Cup, was okay, but obviously last year was a key player for Manchester City, and then all of a sudden had kind of stopped playing. There must have been something that took place between him and Pep, and then before you know it, he's out the door. So they got rid of him pretty quick, and I think Pep's very much like that. In fact, that if things aren't going well, he'll get rid of you, and that's exactly what happened.
Well, he signed with Bayern Munich, so
that's right.
They don't really sign scraps, right? So
yes.
That there had to be some sort of a personality conflict there.
I think so. And it is a loan deal right now,
right?
But with the option for them to buy. So, and I think that's what will end up happening. I don't think he's going to be coming back anytime soon.
Okay, yes. The other team in Manchester United, they announced yesterday that Eriksen is going to be out for 4 months. Which is a huge loss because he really had been one of the driving forces in their resurgence. So they had to go out and get somebody, and they got Marcel Sabitzer from Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
He is not nearly the caliber of player that Eriksen is, but he's better than your McTominays and Freds that they have there now.
Yeah, exactly. I think he's going to add a little bit more depth. Obviously, he's a little bit older, 28. Yeah. Another loan signing with the potential of maybe a further situation where he sticks around. But he's Austrian. I believe he's Austrian, correct? He's an Austrian midfielder. I know Austria and Germany are pretty much the same thing. I know you told me that before. But he, I think he's just there for more backup. Eriksen's out. We need another player just in case.
Right.
So kind of holding the place for Eriksen, because, like you said, he's certainly not in the same category in terms of Eriksen, in terms of creativity and what he's done. Because really, Eriksen's been one of the main players. Him and Casemiro have been the two main players that have really helped kind of, sort out Manchester United for sure.
Sabitzer is the star of the Austrian team.
Yeah, no question.
He has some good quality without question. But if you're a Manchester United fan and you're bringing in a guy from Bayern Munich, you may have some memories of Schweinsteiger coming there. That didn't work out so well at Manchester United, so hopefully this works out better for them.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, Newcastle. This was kind of an interesting sign. Now, Newcastle's one of those teams that has unlimited finances. Chose to go a different direction than the folks at Chelsea. But they got Anthony Gordon from Everton, who last time I watched Everton is their only good player.
He's young and very good. I was following the Everton Twitter a fair bit. He was getting a little bit of grief concerning him leaving at such a dire time for the Everton team. Obviously, They're in the bottom three, struggling. So you're jumping ship. You've started with the team, but ultimately he's got to do what's best for himself, and so that's exactly what he did. He signed with a team that's on the up and up, currently third place. Just got themselves into a final, which is amazing. They're in the Carabao Cup final. So that's the first final they've been in a long time, probably since Alan Shearer's back. And my good friend Gary, Gary, he's planning on going over for that game.
Is he really?
He's like, I don't know if there's ever going to be another time when Newcastle's going to be in a final, so I'm going to do it before I die. So he's trying to make it work to get over there for the final. So, but it should be exciting for them.
Well, I think Gordon is a good pickup for them because he's He's young. He's got pace.
Yeah.
That's how you say it over there. He's got pace.
Yeah.
We say speed
Exactly.
here, but that's same thing.
Yeah.
He is. He's a good player. So added to that mix of players that they have there at Newcastle. We'll see how that works out.
I agree.
Newcastle is definitely on the way up, and that's if you're a Newcastle fan, that's just great news. All right, let's talk about Nottingham Forest because other than Chelsea, it seems like they made the most moves.
Yeah.
They are apparently serious about staying in the Premier League. They brought in Chris Wood, a striker. They brought in Navas, the goalie, who's one of the best in the world. Felipe. They brought in Jonjo Shelvey from Newcastle, who hadn't been playing much, but is a veteran, one of those guys that you can count on. What do you think about their moves?
Yeah, I think all solid signings. I think they could all definitely help. I think Chris Wood is obviously the striker. I mean, Wood and Shelby both coming in from Newcastle. Chris Wood was a player that Newcastle signed to fill a gap last year.
Right.
And you could kind of see it was just almost a temporary one. And now he's moved over. And Jonjo Shelby, he just can't get in a good Newcastle team. But like you said, he's a veteran player in terms of the Premier League, so he's going to bring a bit of quality. I know he's a very good player. I think sometimes he has to deal with, he's maybe got his own opinion on certain things sometimes, and that that might hurt him occasionally, and that's probably why he's jumped around to so many clubs.
He's a bit outspoken.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Yes, that's probably a good way to say it.
Right.
But Navas is more of a player to bring in because Henderson is injured. He's got a thigh injury. So that was a player that would come in, and obviously a huge quality goalkeeper to be able to bring in. So, yeah, I think it's a good group of players that they brought in to hopefully push them up the table. They're moving up. They're in 13th spot, so they've unbeaten in their last 3 games. So they've got a good chance of staying up for sure.
They do. All right, then let's talk about your favorite team, Tottenham.
Yeah,
they brought in Pedro Porro from Sporting Lisbon. They had a couple of players that they brought up. No real big names, though. I think it's safe to say. And they lost Matt Doherty. Your thoughts on Tottenham's moves?
Yeah, I don't know too much about Porro. I think he's obviously been playing in the Portuguese league. If I'm correct in saying that, I think he's a decent signing. I think again, I don't know how much of an impact he's going to make. Doherty was kind of in and out of the side most of the time. I don't think he was a massive favorite of Conte in terms of how he was playing. But I don't think there's not much there to hopefully help them. I mean, they're definitely playing better recently, but we'll see if these guys are able to impact. I
was watching them recently. Must have been an FA Cup game or something.
Yeah, that's right. This past weekend, yeah.
Yeah, and the announcers were talking about how the coach Conte has refused to sign an extension. And that he looks like he's not really into it anymore. You know how he's a very fiery, run up and down the sidelines kind of guy normally? Apparently he is not like that anymore. So, I don't know. That's something to keep an eye on. Certainly.
Yeah. I think he's frustrated. There's no question about it.
Right. All right, West Ham, a team that is in danger of going down, has had a lot of trouble getting goals in the back of the net. They bring in Danny Ings from Aston Villa, right?
Yeah, I think it's a good signing for them. Type of player that they need. I was listening to somebody, I think, on a podcast, and he's a West Ham fan, and they were talking about, they were excited about him coming in, but they're also concerned about him getting injured. I guess he played 20 minutes the other day and got injured already, so he's already out. So that's always the problem. I think he's been a player that struggled considerably with injuries.
Right.
But
when healthy,
can score goals, and that's what you need. You need goals to stay up in this league, so I think that's definitely going to help them. They've obviously moved out of the bottom three with the big win the other week. But, yeah, he's going to give them some depth. I mean, they've still got Bowen. They've still got Antonio. They've got players who can score goals, but it's been a bit infrequent this year. There's too much quality on that West Ham team for them to go down. That's for sure.
Yeah.
So I think Ings will give them the depth they need up front.
All right. And now, if I didn't mention your team, it's because they didn't really do much. And, as a Liverpool fan, I'm not happy. Manchester City, probably not happy. But the team that, in my mind, the fans have just got to be livid is Everton.
Yeah.
At Everton, you fired your coach. You're down in the very bottom of the league, and this is your one chance. You lose your only good player. You bring in no one. It's like you're saying, all right, let's just go to the championship and see what happens down there.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, they got a new manager in Sean Dyche, which is good. I think he's definitely going to organize them and get them into a position where they're going to fight. But again, he got Burnley relegated last year, so that was the tough thing. Can he do enough to keep them up? I just don't know. He's got a lot of work to do with the current players, and like we talked about, he's lost arguably his best player in Anthony Gordon, his youngest best player.
Yeah.
So he's going to have some serious work to do to kind of keep them up. And that bottom three, in Bournemouth, Everton, and Southampton, I haven't seen much from any of those three in the transfers to get them to a point where they can hopefully stay up. So
So that's something to keep in mind. And Dyche he's pretty good at working with teams that don't have a ton of talent.
Exactly. He did that with Burnley.
Yeah.
They'll be very direct in their play. They'll be all about getting a result. I think he could be very positive in terms of what they're doing. So I wish him all the success he can get, especially with that team. He's got players. There's no question. He's definitely got a more talented squad than what he had at Burnley.
Right.
And he kept Burnley up for quite a few seasons. But this is going to be a monumental task, especially because the Everton fans expect so much from their team.
Right. All right. Free Kicks is brought to you by the Illinois Youth Soccer Association.
Illinois Youth Soccer is proudly serving the Illinois soccer community since 1975 and has a strong history of credibility. Illinois Youth Soccer is one of the Illinois' largest youth sports organizations. Illinois Youth Soccer is a non-profit corporation, official state association of U.S. Soccer Federation, and official state association and charter member of U.S. Youth Soccer, as well as administering U.S. Soccer Federation coaching programs, the Olympic Development Program, and the U.S. Soccer Federation referee programs. For more information, go to illinoisyouthsoccer.org.
All right. And things are starting to settle down a little bit now in the office there?
Yeah. I mean, always got something happening. We've probably loaded up on some courses to help coaches get prepared for their spring season. So we're busy with those. Starting to transition into some newer courses with our C's and our D's happening. And then our Olympic Development Program is nearing the end. We just finished all of our trainings. Players are being selected for different events. So we've got some games, which is exciting for those players to play. But yeah, I mean, it's all go as per usual. Looking forward to the summer and looking forward to the better weather, hopefully to come out soon. And then we'll be starting our State Cup series with all of our teams. So just keeps on going around, right? You keep on doing what you're doing. And we're excited for all of the different things that we've got coming up. And one thing that I wanted to mention for anybody listening, especially if you're a director of coaching, and I mentioned this in our previous Coach Connection, we've got a director of coaching course that we're going to be hosting in August. So that's a U.S. soccer license that you would receive. A great course. Recently took it, went through that process, and looking forward to bringing that to our members in the fall. So if you're a director of coaching with at least a B license, this could be a course for you.
Okay. Something to keep in mind. Time for another feature on the show.
Time now to guess the Premier League star.
Now, if you'll remember last week, Adam, you guessed it after 2 clues, and then you taunted me and said that I make it too easy. So buckle up, my friend.
All right, here we go.
All right. This week's Guess the Premier League star is 26 years old.
Okay. Now, let me ask you this question.
Yeah.
Is this a player that has played in the Premier League?
Yes.
Or is it a player that's just joined the Premier League?
No, he's played.
Okay, all right. Wanted to make sure. Okay, so there you go. So all the new signings out.
Yeah, he's not one of the new signings.
Gotcha.
He has played professionally in 3 countries: his home country, the Netherlands, and England. Okay, 3 countries. And he plays for his national team, but they did not make it into the World Cup this year.
Okay.
Or last year. His last name is the same as a former NFL quarterback and current NFL commentator. Okay. That's for our American listeners.
All right.
You want to guess?
Okay. I'm just thinking. So I'm going back to your process here. So I'm just thinking about who it could be. Now, if I remember, I'm trying to think if there was. I'm stalling a little bit. I'm thinking of quarterbacks. I'm thinking of the last quarterback. So
this is not someone that is like a household name. So I'll tell you that he is a center back. How about that? So he's a center back.
Okay.
And I'm going to give you the hint that will help you. You ready?
Yeah.
His Premier League team has famously never won a big trophy.
Okay. All right. So obviously he's playing with Newcastle United.
No. It's a team that you often malign.
Okay. All right. So he's playing with Spurs, is my guess.
That is correct.
And I don't know why I have in my head, I'm trying to think of NFL commentators and the last names of who they are. That's what makes it really difficult, because I'm like, who the heck would be these guys who commentate the game? So I'm just trying to think about who that would be.
Well, his home country's name comes from a famous explorer. One of the great explorers of the 1500s and 1400s.
Wow.
Yeah.
You definitely raised the bar on this one. You know, when I think about who it could well be. Wow, this is.
He wears number 6 as a center back.
Okay, so I'm trying to think, and this guy's a commentator. So Sanchez, Davison Sanchez from Colombia. Is that who we're thinking of?
That's who it is. Mark Sanchez is the quarterback.
See, if I for whatever reason, when you said commentator, I had Tony Romo on my head.
Yeah.
So that was why I was thinking. I'm like, is there a Romo that plays in the Premier League? I couldn't really think of.
Yeah.
And then there was a Romero, which was close to Romo, but it's not the same, obviously.
It's that Eastern Illinois bias.
I know, exactly. Yeah. I kind of just leaned straight towards Tony Romo. Yeah, exactly. So, but
I'll tell you something about Tony Romo. Yeah. We were watching the playoffs last weekend, my wife and I, and she's like, "Boy, this guy's really good. Who's this announcer?" And she thought that he was from Chicago, but I think he's from Wisconsin originally.
That's right. Grew up in Wisconsin. Yeah, he was actually a walk-on at Eastern. I don't know if people knew that.
Was he really? Wow.
Yeah. It was a walk-on, super nice guy. I mean, he was the type of guy, because I was there when he was a student. That's how old I am.
Wow.
So, because I was coaching and obviously got to see him play a little bit, and you could tell it's something special. And I always remember a story. One of my former players sent me a note after one of the seasons. Hey, it looks like you're having a good year, blah, blah, blah. And he appreciated everything that I did. But he went on and talked a little bit about how he would always putting extra work in the field house afterwards to improve his ability. And that's why I think he had a good season. And you know who you would see there every single night?
Tony Romo. Cool.
That's what it is, kids.
Yeah.
You've got to work that extra bit.
Yeah.
Do a little bit of extra time on your own. Obviously, you want to be playing games, but that extra time on its own is definitely going to help you. But and he turned out okay.
Yeah.
And pretty good.
Hard work always pays off. You must work hard. That's what I was taught that my whole life. All right, time for our last feature.
Now time for Adam's Weekend Soccer TV Tip.
Okay, lots of good games coming up this weekend. Who should we not miss?
Yeah, so the game. So we had the weekend off with all of the FA Cup games that took place. My team, Chelsea, didn't play, but they get the season kicked off with a derby. Everybody loves a derby. Chelsea Fulham on Friday, so that should be a good one to watch 2:00 in the afternoon. So sit by your computer at work and watch that one. But yeah, it's some decent games. You've got Newcastle, West Ham, and you might see some new signings there. Obviously, we probably want to watch the new signings of Forest and Leeds with Wes McKennie. But really, the Sunday game, I think, is what you need to watch. You've got to watch the Tottenham Hotspurs against Manchester City. It's a 10:30 kickoff. Should be a really good game. Obviously, Tottenham is moving up the table a little bit in 5th place, just right behind, trying to get into that top 4. Manchester City trying to get closer to Arsenal. Although they're a game behind, but that's the game to watch. I think it's going to be a good one. Definitely watch it. 10:30 kickoff Sunday. That should work for your schedule, shouldn't it, Rick?
Yeah, I can do that. I'll be watching this week's Premier League star, Davison Sanchez, playing.
Exactly.
In the back.
Watching the Star, and then see how Man City deals with that Cancelo. So there you go.
Yeah, usually Sanchez is good for a yellow card, too. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. Free Kicks is brought to you by Green White Soccer. 67 years of soccer excellence. Green White provides a great travel soccer program for kids of all ages. Also an excellent color selection for your new kitchen. Led by former World Cup player and coach Mustafa Edders. Go to greenwhitesoccer.org. All right, special thanks to our executive producer, Tony Lasana with opishows.com. Opie is hippo backwards, OPPIHshows.com. We're distributed by Ed Silla with Radio Misfits. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to a better place, RadioMisfits.com. And we'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of Free Kicks. The preceding was a presentation of Opie Productions. Find our other great shows wherever you find podcasts, including opishows.com. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?